Hi, this is Darmada.
Hi, this is Arvind.
We are on the way to the climate strike with Greta in downtown Los Angeles. Let's ask some people why they are here.
Why is it important to be here, and what's your message?
My message is that 4 United Nations agencies say that animal agriculture accounts for at least 51% of greenhouse gases. This study has been well vetted. It's been out since 2009. We need to close these factory farms and transition into an economy where we grow plants for people.
Thank you very much. What's your message for the people here?
My message for the people here is to give up all animal products to help our planet heal. Giving up animal products and going vegan is the single greatest thing that an individual can do to drastically reduce their carbon footprint and help our planet heal. Animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all transportation. And so we have a responsibility as a society to shift away from animal agriculture and adopt plant-based diets.
And how long have you been vegan?
I've been vegan for 4.5 years, but I was vegetarian for a long time before that. So 4.5 years ago, I shifted from vegetarian to vegan.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Brittany.
Do you have a message?
Yeah, I'm
What's
trying
your
to save the
message?
burrowing owls by planting plants. They'll bring them back. Encouraging volunteers to eat vegan food.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's the name of your project?
The project name is the Guardian Project. theguardianproject.aisha.com if you want to know more.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi. What message do you want to share with the world?
The animal agriculture is the leading cause for the climate change. It is often ignored. We talk about fossil fuels, we talk about other things, but just killing animals in the farms is causing the biggest climate change, and we need to stop that.
What role does veganism have in all this?
Because killing animals is not right in many ways. Climate is one, but if you think about it, you should actually look at how the farms operate. They are really cruel. That's not good for humanity. If we start being kind to animals, you'll start being kind to humans also. So we want to spread a message that killing animals is not the right thing. It's going to kill us all. I mean, we can take it lightly now, but to my grandchild's generation, they're going to suffer. Maybe in 30 years, we will be running out of water, air, and all the essentials that we need to survive. So it is important.
And what's your name?
I'm Naren Koka.
Thank you. So why is it important to be here?
We need to, strike for climate and show people that changes need to be made today. And in order to make that change, I think it's great to start with personal change, because you can't have systemic change without personal change. So we've got to be out here supporting.
What role does veganism have in all this?
A huge role. The fact that the animal agriculture industry creates more greenhouse gases than the transportation system combined is just proof alone that, we can't keep supporting those industries. We got to go vegan. If you call yourself environmentally conscious, I really suggest you do your own research and Google animal agriculture's impact on climate.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Thanks, my name is Tiani.
For those of you who don't know who Greta Thunberg is, let me give you a brief introduction. Greta is a 16-year-old girl from Sweden. In August 2018, she began skipping school and protesting outside Sweden's parliament. The tech startup We Don't Have Time discovered her and made her famous. The movement, Friday for Future, became a global movement, bringing hundreds of thousands of people to the streets every Friday. Greta got invited to come to the US to speak at the UN Climate Summit. She came to the US after a 2-week journey with a zero-emissions racing boat over the Atlantic Ocean with her parents. At the moment, she is on her tour through the US. Greta herself is a vegan for environmental and ethical reasons. She has mentioned that in some interviews or talked about it very briefly. The big question for me today is, will she address animal agriculture as the elephant in the room, or will she focus solely on reducing fossil fuels and demanding actions from political leaders?
Not everyone here knows that animal agriculture is the leading cause of climate change.
Well, now I am the state lead for the California strikes, right? California Youth Climate Strike. I was keeping up with the news about this young woman across the sea in Sweden who was missing school every week for the climate. And so there was a call to action on March 15th. The situation that we're in right now has been caused because of centuries of the effects of systems of oppression on our people. I think of all of the children that are risking their lives in Mexico, in Colombia, in Brazil, in Russia, in China. They are putting their skin out there and they are really in danger. The students in Chile, and it is no surprise that in our communities of color we have the most oil wells and that we are extracting oil next to little children's bedrooms. And it's nasty, it's disgusting. And the fact that we haven't said anything, or well, we have said a lot of things, and some people in government are catching up and others we've had to put out of the way and make them catch up. When we talk about issues, don't forget our undocumented people, our people of color, our indigenous people, our trans women of color. So when we talk about carbon taxes, remember that the people that are going to be suffering it are the people that need it most, which is usually not rich people. But we also need to remember that these are the rich people that are profiting from the extraction of these minerals that are contaminating our communities. And so by limiting their extraction and by encouraging, right, as many people say, the free markets, and I'm not advocating for green capitalism, I think that's bullshit, but we should allow for demand to take control, and we should allow for the people to get what they want, and that is clean energy. And that is something that Governor Newsom is not listening to, but he will listen now, because we will make him. Thank you.
Rise up! I'm calling the youth to rise up. I'm calling the elderly to rise up. I'm calling the LGBTQ plus community to rise up. I'm calling on my people of color to rise up. I'm calling on our differently abled folks to rise up. I'm calling on our immigrants and refugees to rise up. I'm calling on our white allies to rise up. Change is on its way, and it starts with us. So let's get together and rise the fuck up. Thank you.
Hello, hope you have been enjoying this day. My name is Niski Gomez and I am a student at SMC. I currently live and organize in Wilmington, California, and I'm a member for Youth for Environmental Justice, the youth program with Communities for a Better Environment. As a frontline resident, I see oil drilling in my parks, near my home, at my school, and throughout my community. Oil operators are known for following rules and regulations. The toxic chemicals from their drilling operations pollute our local environment and create many health impacts for our front line. We don't have access to clean air to breathe, safe water to drink, or healthy soil to grow food in. This is what environmental injustice feels like to the front line. My community not only has the extraction of oil, but we also have the refinery. There are 3 oil refineries surrounding my community, and they produce 1/3 of California's oil. Big oil and gas operations are major greenhouse polluters that are a major part of our warming climate and worsening health. I also live near the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach. Combined, it's the biggest port complex in the nation. Currently, 70% of all goods imported through the ports go through the 710 freeway, one of the 5 freeways surrounding my community. The reality is that people of color like myself and my community are often facing attacks in places where we learn, sleep, and play. I believe that this isn't right. We should live in healthy communities free from fossil fuels, and that is why I'm standing with you all today.
My name is Nayeli Kobo. I am 18 years old and have been in the fight to end environmental racism and end urban oil drilling since the age of 9. Why start at such a young age? Because every voice matters, no matter whose voice or their education. Everyone has a story to share, and everyone deserves to be heard. So here's my story. I call myself an accidental activist, as I did not wake up one morning and decide to fight. I was forced to fight for my community, our health, and our lives. I grew up 30 feet across the street from an oil well called Alanco Energy that operates on land leased to them by the Archdiocese of LA. Yeah. As a community, we said enough is enough and turned ourselves from victims to fighters. We started a grassroots campaign called People Not Pozos, which means people not wells, and started sharing our story, going to town hall meetings, city hall hearings, contacting media, while simultaneously doing research about oil extraction, as nobody was going to defend the poor, black and brown, Spanish-speaking, low-income immigrant community. Right. It was up to us to learn about gravel packing, slant drilling, fracking, acidizing. We had to become the experts. While growing up next to this oil well, I noticed my health take a toll for the worse. I had headaches, stomach pains, body spasms that got so severe I had to be carried from one place to another. Heart palpitations, and I had to use a heart monitor for several weeks. I have asthma, and that's something I'm always gonna have to live with. And there's things that can come up in the future. I have a higher risk of developing cancer and possible damage to my reproductive system. But it wasn't just me, it was most of my community. We started advocating for change, calling in our community, calling on regulatory agencies to protect us, to simply do their jobs. In November 2013, former U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer flew out and had a press conference with my community in front of Allengo Energy. She pled them to cease operations, and they did so on good terms. I'm very proud to say Allengo Energy has been temporarily shut down for 5 years now, going on 6 this November 22nd. We then noticed we were not the only community being affected by neighborhood oil drilling. This is when Stand LA was born, with the mission to pass an ordinance to establish a 2,500-foot health and safety buffer zone for our health, safety, and environment. Standing here speaking to all of you, seeing people from not only across the city or the state, but the country or the world.
My name is Kevin J. Patel. Our city is on fire. Our world is on fire. We already know that the climate crisis is the single greatest issue of our time. We have only 11 years left for politicians and world leaders to meet the Paris Agreement goals, to ultimately determine the future of our world. I have experienced firsthand the devastating effects of the climate crisis. When I was in 5th grade, I was diagnosed with heart palpitations as a result of living in Los Angeles, one of the most air-polluted cities in America. I recall spending most of my middle school years in and out of the hospital. My parents were scared for me, and still are to this day. Even now that I have graduated from high school and am in college, I still notice that my community, the place I call home, is being destroyed by the very thing that caused my issue. The state of California is known to be the bluest states in America, but yet we are still affected by wildfires, droughts, heat waves, and toxic oil wells and refineries. While Governor Newsom has talked the talk, he has failed to follow through. Under his watch, California has issued over 2,000 new fossil fuel drilling permits, and most of which in communities of color and low-income communities. Being one of the bluest states in America is not an excuse not to act on the climate crisis. It is not the rich and affluent communities of Los Angeles that are affected first. It is the low-income communities of color that are. I want my Governor, Gavin Newsom, to hear my voice. Will you stand up for my community and my generation? Or will you take the side of fossil fuel elites? We need leaders who will take urgent action required to stop the worst effects of the climate crisis. Governor Newsom, your complacency is killing me. It is killing all of us.
Thank you all so much for coming here. It is an honor for me to stand next to you today, together in this fight. And it is great to be in Los Angeles and in California. And I want to say a special thank you to the youth organizers in Los Angeles who made this possible. We recognize we are on indigenous land. The village of LA is Yanga. The people were Yavetam. Now they are often called Gabrielino Tongva for the entire Los Angeles basin. Earlier this week, I visited Paradise in California, and I met with survivors who showed me around the devastation Street after street with no houses left. I heard heartbreaking stories. 18,000 buildings were destroyed, and at least 86 people died. Today in California, we can see the wildfires happening just around the corner. Wildfires that are being intensified by the climate crisis.
Yes.
But it's not just here. Everywhere around the world, we can see these horrible environmental feedbacks that countless of people are suffering and dying from. Right now, we are living in the beginning of a climate and ecological breakdown. And we cannot continue to look away from this crisis anymore. I mean, what is it that seems to be so hard to understand? We have been repeating the same message over and over again. That's right. The scientists have been repeating the same message over and over and over again. And yet, they are still not being listened to. It is the year 2019. Why is the world still ignoring the science and those most affected by this crisis? Why are the people in power still pretending that everything is fine and as if we could just continue to live like now, as if there was no tomorrow? Well, there is a tomorrow. It is the tomorrow where we, young people, will live. And we need to fight for that tomorrow, and we need to protect it as if our lives depended on it, because it does. People are already suffering and dying from the climate and ecological emergency. And it will continue to get worse. Doesn't this mean anything to the decision makers? We will, and I will never understand how they can put short-term interests above human lives, above the planet itself, and our very futures. But we young people have had enough. We say no more. And if our parents won't speak up for us, then we will. We have drawn the line, and we will make sure that the people in power don't get away with continuing like now. The older generations are failing us. They are failing future generations. But future generations do not have a voice. And the biosphere doesn't have a voice. So we will be the voice that speaks up for them. And we will be the voice that speaks up for ourselves. And that right now, that is what we are doing. We are speaking up. And that is what we will continue to do every Friday when we strike, and every single day that goes by. We are speaking up and we will not be silenced. Do you think they are listening to us?
Please move your camera.
We will make them listen. Thank you.
In her talk, Greta addressed everything except animal agriculture as the principal cause of climate change. And after her talk, you raised your voice to call attention to animal agriculture, but your voice was not heard. How do you feel, and what would you say?
I feel a bit frustrated over the fact that she didn't address it, because Greta Thunberg is a very intelligent young woman, so we know that she wouldn't do anything without reason or purpose. So there has to be a reason as to why she's vegan. So right here, what I'm holding is something written by Dr. Silas Rao, and this science here proves that 87% of climate change can be contributed to the animal agriculture industry. So when I went around today and I tried to have conversations with people, nobody really wanted to talk about it. Everyone here is talking about CO2. Now, what we all know is that animal agriculture is the leading cause of deforestation. So if trees are able to breathe in CO2 and take in the CO2 that's in the air, and we're cutting down all of the trees to breed, slaughter, kill, and process animals, then all of the CO2 that isn't being absorbed is due to animal agriculture industry. Not to mention the methane and all of the CO2 that the animals create. So it's really the leading cause of this climate crisis that we're facing is the animal agriculture industry. And I found it to be very disheartening that nobody today, especially Greta Thunberg, a vegan herself, approached this topic. So at the end of her speech, I decided to raise up and ask her to please address animal agriculture. Why is she vegan? Tell us, Greta, why are you vegan? I've been following her for a while, and maybe in passing she's mentioned veganism, but she's never sat down and gone through any statistics. She's never really preached a vegan lifestyle for anyone for environmental or moral reasons. So I think that as someone who has so much power, especially in this environmental movement, it's really important that we have her speak on something that she already believes in. It's important that we have a voice out there for the animals, for the planet, for human health, that someone is discussing animal agriculture.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
I'm Freedom Frankie.
Thank you.
So Greta did not mention animal agriculture at all, or veganism, nothing. We are really disappointed. Arvind, how do you feel?
Yeah, on the one hand, I feel very happy that the fossil industry was held directly and vociferously responsible for the degradation of the environment. Many of the victims of the fossil industry spoke up, and that is wonderful. On the other hand, I am deeply disappointed, indeed distressed, that perhaps the principal factor involved in affecting climate change, namely animal industry, was not even mentioned, much less discussed. This is despite the fact that there were many of us who held banners addressing the connection between the animal industry and environmentalism. So on the whole, I feel a little cheated or disappointed. Thank you.
Do you think she was not allowed to speak about it?
My suspicion is that probably there are other forces that are informing Greta. Greta is an ethical vegan, from whatever little I've gathered. So why doesn't she address what we can all do at a personal level, while at the same time fighting corporate industries? Not all of us can speak to governors, but each one of us can consider making plant-based options as a way of living sustainably on an individual basis. And that, I think, is something that Greta or any of the others should have mentioned as a takeaway message.